All right, we now have a quorum and we'll begin the COPREC meeting. This meeting is being recorded. With the permission of the chair, I will start with the roll call. Justin Fields.
Yes, here.
Ken Bacon.
Here.
Sarah Benuola.
Here.
Elizabeth Bradley.
Here.
Cassidy Chivers.
Here, Shivers.
Shivers, okay. Toby Inlander.
Here.
Brandon Kruger.
Here.
Joel Mark.
Here.
Eleanor Mercado.
Here.
William Munoz.
Here.
Dina Roche. Kyla Rowe.
Here.
And Hunter Starr.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Did you see Dina's message? She says that it's muted for her, and she sent something in chat about how she's muted.
No, she shouldn't be. She doesn't appear that she's muted. Dina?
Dina, can you speak? Can you hear us?
She sent something in chat that says everything's
Yeah.
muted for her.
I see that. I'm not sure she can hear us though.
And in the strange boxes that I'm seeing, hers appeared different as well.
I think she
So-
changed her settings so that it's she picked her audio as she's going to call in because it shows a telephone next to her name. Sure.
So strange. I have no
Oh,
idea.
She has a phone next to her thing because she decided she may have picked the will join audio by phone. She's going to relog in.
Well, I think
Yeah.
Justin phoned in. Did we lose Justin now? This is going,
Yeah.
this is going
not going well.
smooth.
Like I said, first day of school, kinks to work out.
I've never had this happen before.
Yeah, that's true.
Here comes someone named Dina. Here come two people named Dina.
And when Justin was talking earlier, Dina's square would light up.
Yeah. Justin, can you hear us?
Oh, we can see Justin now.
I can hear you now, but
We
it
can
doesn't.
see Justin
Yeah.
now, but I don't know which Dina Roche box is actually Dina.
Justin's not moving. Is he frozen?
Why does he have my login?
I
Or what?
don't know.
I don't know. Did Angela, is that something that Angela can
Here,
do
let
on
me
the
just
back
try
end?
that. Let me see. Okay, I fixed it. There we go. All right. And now we lost Justin again.
But Dina, you can hear us?
I can hear you now. Yeah, it was like
Okay.
when all of a sudden when Justin logged in as me, then it sort of messed up. By the way, we never have these problems. I'm not kidding.
This has never
We're having
happened.
Seriously, the first time.
Can we send Justin a new link? Just set up a new meeting invite for Justin so that he's not using the same one perhaps that was sent to Dina?
It doesn't work that way. Everyone has the same link. It's just, it's tied to your email address. And that's how you log in. So I don't know how he's logging in as Dina unless he's logging in using her Zoom account.
Justin's back. Can you hear me?
Yes,
You
we can
can.
hear you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think it's something to do with Zoom because for a moment I could see Brandon,
Well, we could
but then
see
now
you
everybody's a blank box again. So I'm not thinking this is on my end anymore. But anyway.
Yeah, you're completely frozen. Dina, can we still hear you?
Can you hear me?
Okay, good, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure. Okay,
I can hear you, which is good too.
that's always important.
All right,
All right.
maybe we should proceed while we have the
While we have
stars
everybody.
minimally aligned.
All right. Well, if we go on to the next item on our agenda, it would be public comment. If there's any members of the public who would like to give comment, please use the raise hand function to indicate you'd like to do so, and you'll be given 2 minutes. Okay, it appears there's no one who would like to give public comment. We can move on with the rest of the agenda.
Andrew, have you given your report yet while I was away?
Not yet, and I will try to be brief, just with respect to the committee's opinion work. Just as a reminder, interim opinion 19-0004, which is the client file release and retention duties opinion, is still circulating for public comment. It has a public comment deadline of November the 10th. So we will review that opinion and the comments received at our meeting on December the 3rd. Similarly, the opinion 20-0004, ethical obligations when working remotely, is also out for its initial 90-day public comment period. That has a public comment period deadline of November the 12th. So we will also consider that opinion and the comments received at the December 3rd meeting. You'll recall last meeting, the committee approved 13-0002, client with diminished capacity, to be sent to the board with a request for publication. That'll go to the Regulation and Discipline Subcommittee at the board's meeting in November. That's November the 18th. And it's also on our agenda, and I'll speak to it in more detail when the agenda item is called. But at the September board meeting, the Board of Trustees approved a report and recommendation provided by the California Paraprofessional Working Group concerning a paraprofessional program for California. And that report in its entirety is circulating for public comment. Any individual or any organization with whom you might be affiliated, who might have an interest in commenting on any aspect of that report, is encouraged to do so. The public comment period for that report concludes on January the 12th. And as pertinent to the work of this committee, the report contains a few components, one of which is a proposed set of rules of professional conduct for paraprofessionals. It largely mirrors the attorney rules of professional conduct. There are some deviations. I'll speak to that again as when the agenda item for that topic comes up. But just wanted to let you know more broadly that the report is out and circulating for public comment. And if this committee would like to do so, we have an opportunity to provide public comment on the rules of professional conduct that have been proposed by that group. And of course, this is the first committee meeting of the new committee year. So we will have time in the agenda to do formal introductions, but I always like to just briefly and sincerely welcome all our new members, Cassidy, William, Eleanor, and Elizabeth. We're really excited to have you guys. You all bring a strong and deep background in legal ethics, and that's going to be immensely helpful for the work of the committee. So welcome. I hope you enjoyed as much as I do. I can't speak for everyone else and their interactions with me, but I really enjoy staffing this committee, and I will speak more to that when we get to formal introductions. So thank you. And that's all I got, Justin.
Great. Well, we're actually still on track time-wise, so that's wonderful. Just for the new members' benefit, we usually don't have these kind of technical issues. I think this is the most glitches we've had in any meeting. So this is very unusual. This has been a very smooth transition, relatively speaking, to remote meetings. And I think this is just a blip, and we'll get through it. And thank you for everyone's patience. What I would like us to do now is our annual Icebreaker, which is an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves and reintroduce ourselves to one another. And so what I was thinking we could do, since we're doing this remotely, I'll start it off, and then maybe we can go in the order, assuming that everyone has the same order of Zoom panelists on their screen, from, top left, finish that row, start the next row, and so on until we conclude. And what I'm thinking makes sense is to have everyone, say their name, brief statement of their professional background, where in the world you are, and in terms of the icebreaker topic, in the past we've done some things like your favorite band, something surprising about yourself. I was thinking, what given the state of affairs and remote working and how our lives have changed, one thing that's really changed for me is food. And so I was thinking for the icebreaker, we could share with one another some new cooking or food item that you've discovered in our changed circumstances over the last couple of years. And if you're not a big cook, maybe a food that says something about yourself that you've kind of taken on as part of your palate over the last year and a half or so, given that I think a lot of us are either getting a lot more takeout or cooking for ourselves to avoid the crowds and such. So I'll go first to start us off. I'm Justin Fields. I'm the chair this year of the committee. This is my 5th year on COPRAC. It's amazing how time flies, and to have been a part of this committee for so long is really a special treat in my career. I'm a partner at Duane Morris in San Francisco, and my practice is litigation with an emphasis in representing lawyers and law firms in legal malpractice cases. I'm here in San Francisco. I live for work. I live just north of the Bay Bridge in Marin. And in terms of my food story, I have 2 toddlers. And so we've been, hermits basically for the last couple of years for that reason. And so we've tried to triage our food situation as best we can. And so one thing I've tried to do, since I can't travel as I did on my honeymoon to Italy and eat delicious pasta, I've tried to come up with ways to make it a little bit more interesting for my family. And so I've tried to perfect an olio oglio recipe, which involves a lot of oil and garlic, and try to incorporate what we have in our home for my kids to get excited about it. And so we have a lemon bush in our backyard, so I've added that to the recipe. And I was cooking this probably once a week for much of the pandemic. And then we would couple that. It was an odd combination because I wanted to incorporate my kids in this. We have a lime tree as well. And so my wife likes limeade. So I would make this olio oglio pasta with limeade, which makes no sense whatsoever, but it was a way to get us all in the kitchen together doing something new and different. And that worked out for a few months until my wife said she can't handle any more olive oil that I put on pasta. And so that's gone to the wayside, but she's happy to have my limeades, and we still make that with the kids. And so that's my icebreaker story about food. And I'll now let whomever is next on the boxes in front of us, which I can't see very well, go next.
I don't know if the order is the same for everyone, so why don't we do the pass the baton way? So Justin, you would select the next person to go, and then they would select the next person to go. We can do it that way.
Sure, that's fine. Well, let's start with leadership, and how about Sarah? You want to go next?
Sure. So I am the vice chair of COPRAC this year. In March of this year, I started my own law firm, BRB Law. We are focused on regulatory law, primarily telecom, although I have an extensive background as well in professional responsibility, starting with my experience at Cooper, White & Cooper, and I also do employment law. I'm excited to have all the new members at the meeting today. And I am My new office is based in Oakland, although I've been primarily working remotely from my home office in Belmont, California. And I guess I really, I don't find that I have enough time to cook, although I enjoy cooking. Although I know Justin mentioned how he has young kids, and from the time I think my daughter was only a week or so old, we started going out to restaurants with her. So I get takeout in restaurants a lot. And so I guess one, I guess great food experience I had during this time of COVID, where it's been more difficult, especially at the beginning, to go out to restaurants, although now there's a lot open outdoors. But for the holidays and around Christmas time, there's a special dish that my grandmother makes called pastelas, and they're like a Puerto Rican version of a Mexican tamale, but very different. And it's made with yuca mashed up. It's got roasted pork in it. It's got habanero peppers, and it's just really good. And it's wrapped in a plantain leaf, and then you boil it. And we were able to discover a great place. We'd been there before, but we had kind of stopped going in San Ramon, where they sold them by the dozen. And we went somewhere else in the Mission to pick up side dishes. And so we were still able to have kind of the traditional foods I'm used to having at Christmas, even though we weren't able to travel back to New York this year for Christmas. So that was one great food experience I had. And I will now pass it on to Dina, who's our advisor this year.
Hi, I'm Dina Roach, and I am the advisor of the immediate past chair. My law firm is O'Reilly and Roach. We practice throughout California. Our primary focus is on legal advice and ethics work for law firms, lawyers, law-related businesses, and technology companies, and provide a wide range of support from like formation to ongoing advice, departures, transitions. So it's like sort of like a full service offerings to law firms and lawyers and those that need advice on legal regulatory issues. Cooking, I was enjoying cooking a lot with my daughter, who just went off to college, so that's kind of sad. But I would say that for me, not for her, she's having a great time. But I would say like my go-to, like just with, it's been like roasted vegetables. I can roast almost anything, olive oil, salt, put it in, pan sheet stuff. And it's like, I find that it tastes absolutely delicious. I feel like it's moderately healthy for me and is really good. So yeah, a lot of, sort of the Mediterranean approach to olive oil and salt, which you kind of can't go wrong with those ingredients in my mind on anything. So yeah, that's what I would say about my cooking. I am going to pass it to Eleanor.
Mute.
Except I caught you on mute.
Eleanor.
You're muted.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Eleanor Mercado. I live in Encino in the San Fernando Valley. I've been with Paul Hastings in the Los Angeles office since about 2006. Initially as a litigator focused on securities litigation and enforcement matters. And then for the last 7 or so years, working in the general counsel's office on a broad array of ethics and risk management work as associate general counsel. I'm excited to be here and look forward to working with you all. And when it comes to food, I really don't have anything exciting to share. My kids would tell you I have about 4 meals I can cook competently, and they're tired of them. And during the pandemic, I discovered Postmates and am now an avid user. It's become a real habit in our family. So probably the most interesting fact about that is I have 6 children. So they like being able to place an order rather than having to cook what I feed them.
Eleanor, you should pick somebody to go.
Yes, I need to pass the baton. How about William?
All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Bill Munoz. I go by Bill. I'm here in Sacramento. Up until January of this year, I was a shareholder with Murphy, Pierce & Bradley, running their Sacramento office. primarily defending lawyers in legal malpractice matters. Now I'm a full-time mediator, trying to focus on professional liability and legal malpractice cases and other things. I do expert witness work, standard of care stuff, ethical issues, and legal malpractice cases as well to fill my time. And as far as food goes, my wife and I decided that we were going to go through a remodel during the pandemic. So I was a big fan of DoorDash forever. And finally the kitchen was redone. And so we started cooking again. And I discovered that I can pretty much air fry anything in my air fryer. In addition to going through the remodel, we are chocolate fanatics. If anyone's familiar with the show. I learned how the flavors go together and all the different types of food. So I learned that my favorite dish, though, is via slow cooker, and that's stuffed meatballs, which I didn't have an appreciation for Italian sausage until I made those. So they're fantastic, and I pretty much dialed in the recipe. So if anyone's looking for stuffed meatballs at a meeting, I'll bring them, and you can give me your 2 cents and see how good they are. But with that, I'm really looking forward to being on this committee. For a while, I've been looking to get on this committee, and this is the first time I discovered you guys are accepting applications. I jumped on it, and thank you for having me. Oh, I will go to Cassidy.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
So I'm Cassidy Chivers. Up until Tuesday of this week, I was with Hinshaw and Culbertson as a partner, and I was there for 21 years. So it was a big move. I'm now at Barron and Newberger, and I left with 2 other partners, and we have formed the firm's risk management and legal malpractice team. So I'm leading that group. I am in Mill Valley, Marin as well. And I do legal malpractice, risk management, ethics, advising lawyers and law firms on regulatory issues and business of law type of stuff. So what have I learned cooking? I learned how to make Thai spring rolls, which I made a lot over the past year, and my family got sort of sick of it. I have a daughter who's 12, and she's a very picky eater. And another pretty exciting discovery is Gold Belly. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Gold Belly, but you can order from pretty much any really hot, cool restaurant across the country. And so I like to order from Parachute in Chicago, which is so delicious Korean food. So discover Gold Belly. I'm not a spokesperson for Gold Belly, but it's it's a great service. I think it's kind of like Postmates, but yeah, if you want a special meal, check it out. It's good. Oh, okay. And so I will pick Joel.
Thank you, Cassidy. First of all, not only welcome to you, but I was clearing my APRL emails this morning, and I noticed your gender reveal in your signature block. And I think that's terrific. That's the first I've seen it. I don't know if anybody else has done it, but it helps the rest of us be a little more appropriate. So that's nice. Thank you. But I was a business litigation attorney for 48 years until recently, 26 years in Los Angeles area, including an office in the San Fernando Valley for a while, 16 years in Ventura County, and the last 6 years up here down here in Palm Desert, California, where I have ceased active practice, but I'm just doing expert witness work. Cooking, that's an interesting thing. My wife and I are both pretty good cooks, but as this pandemic thing has lengthened out and we've tried to stay home and be careful, we've just developed the philosophy that nothing says loving like something from the microwave. So that's about as sophisticated as we get these days. So that's me. And Ken, you're next in my view.
Hi, everyone. Ken Bacon. This is my third year on the committee. Prior to that, I was with the Fee Arbitration Committee for a long, long time. I'm currently with the Mastagni Holstead firm in Sacramento. We do civil litigation, labor, employment, workers' comp. I do the in-house risk management for the firm, about 50 some odd lawyers. I still do legal malpractice work, fee disputes, ethics consultations, and expert witness testimony. I have been the presiding arbitrator for the fee arbitration program for 8 years, but have stepped down so I can spend more time concentrating on co-prac. So there will be a new presiding arbitrator in the upcoming term. I still chair the Sacramento County Bar fee arbitration program. I will continue to do that. In terms of cooking, I had similar situation as Bill, except our remodel was involuntary. We had a pipe break in April of 2020, which flooded our kitchen and good chunk of our house. So our kitchen was out of commission for quite some time as we dealt with contractors getting all that repaired. During that period, I have, after some serious dieting for a few years, I rediscovered the joys of pizza. So we have continued that and takeout since our kitchen is back up and running. And the only other interesting food thing we have nowadays is we have a 1-year-old granddaughter who lives right next door to us and spends an inordinate amount of time over here, which is wonderful. You'll probably hear her in the background today because she's here now. So our kitchen is also stocked with all sorts of foods for baby. And she's not really a baby now. She just turned 1. So she's getting more into regular food, but that's been an experience. And that's about all I have. I will pass the baton to Toby. There's my granddaughter. Hi, Dove.
I'm Toby Linder. I am the public member of this committee. This is my 4th year. Just as a transition, normally I would have rotated off last year. I was before this a member of the 2nd Rules Revision Commission. I'm a retired nonprofit executive. I ran an organization that provided community mediation services and public school conflict management training and mediation, peer mediation services in Los Angeles that had been founded, was a part of the LA County Bar. I'm now doing some nonprofit management and philanthropic consultation. My cooking, I have become a soup maker in the last couple of years. I used to make soup before, but not the way I've been doing it now. I am trying to perfect various kinds of vegan soups that are, I'm not vegan, but I have friends and children who are, that are creamy without cream. And it's working, but I am still in search of the ultimate immersion blender, if anybody knows of one. And that's my story. Kyla.
Hi everyone, I'm Kyla. In the vein of the technical difficulties earlier, I have 2 dogs who are usually pretty well behaved during these meetings, but one of them has just decided to bark at me this entire time. So I'm currently feeding treats to him regularly as a bribe to get him to stop barking. So sorry if he barks, I'm going to be muted most of this meeting. But this is my 2nd year on the committee. I'm a content attorney at Continuing Education of the Bar, CEB. I just started that January of this year. Before that, I practiced transactional real estate law at a mid-sized firm in San Francisco. I live in Santa Cruz. I've been remote since 2016. So I'm pretty used to the remote thing. And food-wise, I've gotten very into growing my own food during the pandemic. Very much like Dina, with the just veggies in a pan with olive oil and salt, and I love that. And I'm actually right now taking night classes at the community college to get my permaculture design certificate and a horticulture degree. So I've like really leaned into the growing food and sustainability. It's cooking wise, it's interesting because my partner and I became foster parents this year to a teenager, and my partner and I are vegetarian, almost vegan. I have had a hard time giving up eggs, but we've been vegetarian for many years, and our 16-year-old foster son is not. So there is a lot of meat in our fridge, which is like still a little shocking every time I open up the fridge and I just see like pork ribs, and I'm like, okay. So I don't cook the meat, but my partner is a total sweetheart in terms of like he will help our foster son safely cook meat so that he's not poisoning himself. But I just leave the room at that point. But we've been sneaking vegetables into his diet with the veggies that we grow, and kind of introducing him to stuff that he didn't know just in terms of vegetables. So it's been an adventure. And then I will pass it to Brandon, I think, or Brandon and Hunter, I think, are the only two who haven't gone. Okay, I'll pass it to Brandon.
I'm Brandon Krieger. I'm a partner at Saul Spencer Callison Krieger in Laguna Beach. We do legal malpractice, fee disputes, almost entirely plaintiff side with the occasional defense representation as well. This is my third year I'm starting on the committee. And in terms of pandemic food, it's given me the opportunity to grill outside a lot, and I grew up in a very cold climate in Wisconsin. So I'm thrilled that I'm home a lot more and can grill year round. And my California born and raised wife and kids think it's cold all the time, and I'm constantly perplexed by that. But yeah, that's more grilling, I guess, since we have little kids that are unvaccinated and we don't go to restaurants yet. And so it's a lot of repetition, but at least I'm outside when I'm cooking. So I don't think Elizabeth has gone yet. I'll call on Elizabeth.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm Elizabeth Bradley. I'm a partner at Rosen Saba LLP. We're in Beverly Hills, currently transitioning to the South Bay, much to my chagrin, but I am currently in Palos Verdes Estates, which is really beautiful, but dying to get to Healdsburg by you all in Northern California, hopefully next month, and hopefully not soon after, not long after that, to Rome, because that's where my partner and I love to go and enjoy all the food we can possibly eat in a 2 to 3 week period. I also practice legal malpractice litigation, primarily for plaintiffs as well, with some occasional defense work and employment litigation. And I handle all of our firm's appellate work. And I also do quite a bit of employment law. And as far as the pandemic, given that my partner is vegetarian, I am not, and neither of us are fond of vegetables, it's quite a challenge figuring out what the heck we're going to eat every night. So I abandoned attempting to cook long ago, but even more so during the pandemic, other than some Tuscan soup once in a while. But I'm up for trying all of the food delivery services, and I found a great one at work yesterday called Lobster and Beer on Motor. And I am now, after having a great lobster roll and a lobster corn chowder yesterday at work, I had to work really late. I'm gonna try everything on their menu at lunch from the office, since it's not really vegetarian friendly. And I think that's about it. And H star, I don't know your first name.
Well, that's a perfect time for me to introduce myself then.
Great.
I'm Hunter Starr. I'm a homicide prosecutor in Kern County. I've been doing it for going on 8 years. I've prosecuted gang cases, prison cases. And I have worked defense as a law clerk. I've worked criminal defense in terms of appellate work when I was a law student. So for the most part, my wheelhouse is criminal law. And because I'm a prosecutor, I deal with special duties of a prosecutor on a daily basis. That's really my wheelhouse. I've been on this committee now for 1 year. I'm starting my 2nd year, and I've been frankly just amazed at the expertise and collegiality on this committee. And so I'm excited to start the 2nd year. In terms of food, we have not really been locked down in Kern County since about May of 2020. We locked down for a hot second and nobody really paid attention to the lockdown. And so we just kind of opened back up. Be that as it may, I have taken on additional responsibilities, co-prac, and then I teach quite a bit. So my wife has actually started cooking a number of different dishes, but the 2 that she really just mastered are Filipino siopao and pork tonkatsu. And both of them, she's just, I mean, I can eat that stuff all day. And so can my kids. And she's really getting into Filipino cuisine. She is Filipino. And so she's kind of like embracing that. And I'm wholeheartedly a supporter of her cooking because I'm the primary beneficiary of that. So I would say that the pandemic, or at least the way it has played out, has definitely benefited me in that way. And I believe I'm the last one.
Well, can you hear me and see me now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. All right. That took some work from a history major to figure that out, but here we are. I don't want to forget our State Bar staff, because I really want to hear their food stories. So maybe we can go to Mimi and then Andrew.
Okay, I'm Mimi. I'm a senior program analyst in the Office of Professional Competence. I've staffed this committee and been with the bar for 15 years roughly. And I staffed this committee as well as the CTJG working group. I did the Rules Revision Commission. I did the ADLS task force. I'm the staff person for our office when it comes to committees. And my food story for pandemic would be my mom came to visit for an extended period of time because in Korea, the COVID was really rampant. So in that time, we spent a lot of time and multiple occasions making our own kimchi. And if you don't know what that is, it's spicy fermented cabbage. And I did not realize how labor intensive it is. It's like a 2-day process. And so now in our kimchi fridge, there's actually a separate fridge for kimchi. There is about 9 months worth of kimchi that we can enjoy that was homemade. And so, yep, that's what I did during the pandemic. Oh, Andrew.
Okay, hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Tuft. I'm the supervising attorney in the State Bar's Office of Professional Competence. I think I'm completing my 13th year here at the State Bar. This will be my 11th year staffing this committee as staff counsel. Similar to Mimi, I have many responsibilities at the State Bar. I supervise the ethics hotline. I supervise the mandatory fee arbitration program, as well as the lawyer referral service program. I help staff the Rules Revision Commission, the Access Through Innovation Legal Services Working Group, which has since completed its work, but handed its work off to the Closing the Justice Gap Working Group, which I also staff along with Mimi, and also assist other departments in the Board of Trustees with respect to legal ethics and professional responsibility issues when necessary. All that being said, of everything I do, my work here with you all is my most favorite thing I get to do. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but mainly it's because I just really enjoy working with, and that's my dog in the background, if you can hear. I really enjoy working with all the volunteers, you know, without exception. I've just met so many excellent people who are inspired, dedicated, and intrigued by this area of law. And I find myself I think of myself as a similar person. So it's like a support group, you know, when you come in, maybe we're enablers of each other. I don't know how you want to frame it, but it's a really great place to be. And man, it's the best crash course and place to learn legal ethics that you'll ever find. So I've been really blessed and fortunate just to have that professional experience. And so I'm always thankful and grateful for that. And it's always the first committee meeting of the year that really, for me personally, gets to re-inspire that, because there are new people coming on, and I'm just genuinely appreciative of that. I don't know that you could ever replicate this experience elsewhere. So I'm cognizant and thankful of that. In terms of food, I don't mean to offend Kyla, but I made a panic purchase 18 months ago when I realized we would be at our house for a long time. I thought, what could take time while I'm at home? And I thought about slow cooking, smoking meat. And so I bought a smoker without consulting my wife. I just left on a Saturday, took 2 hours, came back, got a large green egg in the backyard. And man, that thing's been fun. Do a lot of pork shoulder, brisket, ribs, chicken. I did prime rib for Christmas Eve last year, which was a lot of fun, just experimenting with different rubs and recipes. It takes a long time, but I don't know if that's soothing or whatnot, but just the process. I enjoy the process. Sometimes it doesn't go as it's supposed to, but you're always learning, and some meats are more forgiving than others. So you learn to get really adventurous with some of those meats that are more forgiving than others, in case you're going to screw it up. So that's been a lot of fun. And if we ever get together in person, you know, maybe I can bring some foiled up, really tasty red meat for you all, and I can smoke vegetables too, Kyla. Don't be afraid. Get some asparagus on there or something. And that's it from me.
Thanks, Andrew, and thank you everyone for letting us know a little bit about yourself and sharing a culinary story with us. So we might need to do lunch a little earlier than usual, because now I'm salivating a little bit. But if we can't do that, maybe we can take some of you up on the suggestion of some kind of potluck when we all finally meet in person. And I'm going to make a request to Andrew for some of that green egg brisket, because that sounds really good. Before we get into our first opinion for the day, Mimi was kind enough to remind me that we still need to approve our open session action summary from our last meeting. And so how this works for our new members is we'll take a roll call, usually in alphabetical order. And for the new members, because you didn't attend our last meeting, the default response will be just to say abstain. And for those members from our past committee meeting who weren't there, they will probably say no if they didn't attend. And that's kind of how this works. So Mimi, shall we proceed? Do we need a motion?
Yes, I do.
All right, well, I would move to approve the open session action summary from our last meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Joel. All right, I'll take the roll call vote. Justin Fields?
Yes.
Ken Bacon?
Yes.
Sarah Bonola?
Yes.
Elizabeth Bradley?
Abstain.
Cassidy Chivers?
Abstain.
Toby and Linder? Toby, you're muted.
Yes.
Brendan Kruger?
Yes.
Joel Mark?
Yes.
Eleanor Mercado? Eleanor, are you still with us? Bill Munoz?
Abstain.
Kyla Rowe?
I guess no, because I wasn't there.
You can just abstain
Or
then.
abstain.
You can abstain, yeah.
Okay. Hunter Star.
Abstain due to having to leave early.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I said abstain. I'm sorry, you did not
Okay.
hear me.
No problem. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. So I think we're ready to move on to our first discussion of an opinion for today. We have on our agenda 20-005, which is contingency fee agreements and earning an hourly rate when terminated. And I think, Brandon, are you the lead drafter for this
Yes.
opinion? So maybe you could start off by maybe giving, for our new members' benefit, some of the background on this opinion, and then maybe walk us through some of the primary changes. And then what we typically do for the new members' benefit is then open up the floor to discussion about the opinion, typically focusing on the changes and revisions, but obviously anything else that members believe would be helpful to raise with the group as a whole. And then we have a discussion, and we try to stay on track so we're able to get through all of the opinions we intend to. So for instance, today we have until lunch slated to discuss this opinion, and we'll take as much of that time as we need. And with that, Brandon, why don't you take it away?
Sure, thank you. So I really had two goals with this opinion. The first was to address something I see in my practice a lot, which are fee agreements that in which lawyers that start out on a contingency fee arrangement and present themselves as contingency fee lawyers have clauses in their fee agreements that trigger alternate fee arrangements by sort of invading the province of the client to make decisions regarding the representation. You see this in the area of the termination of the attorney-client relationship. If I'm terminated before any recovery, I get my hourly rate times my hours, and I get it immediately. Or you see it often in the settlement context. If you don't follow my advice regarding a settlement, it either can trigger hourly fees, or it can trigger a contingency computed against the settlement I told you and advised you to accept, and that you rejected. And I've long felt these are very, very inappropriate, and haven't seen California guidance on this topic. I've seen some case law addressing it, but I haven't seen ethical guidance. So that was the main goal with this draft, was to address that. The secondary goal is maybe not as worthy. And Elizabeth will be able to understand this because she and I serve on the LA County Bar Association Ethics Committee. And one of the criticisms I hear about our COPRAC opinions month in and month out is that they are too long. And so I wanted to see if I could write as streamlined an opinion as possible and only talk about things that are absolutely material to these issues. That's a lesser goal, and we can abandon it if we have more areas of inquiry that we think are significant. And as the roster of this committee changes, I'm interested to see if the general sense of the committee changes at all as to the appropriateness of these clauses, because I see them all over the place, and some people think they're just fine. So this is probably the third revision of this opinion to come before the committee for discussion. One of the things I was wrestling with is that other state ethics committees, the ethics committees of outside California that have addressed these issues, have often engaged in an analysis of whether or not a client is terminating an attorney for cause. And the concept of termination for cause or not for cause has been really central to a lot of outside authorities' determination of whether or not a conversion clause is appropriate. And I was initially trying to incorporate that sort of analysis into this opinion. I've reached the conclusion now that that's really not appropriate in California. California client can terminate an attorney for any reason, for no reason, and that shouldn't be impinged upon. And I believe that in case law, the Russ Miliband line of cases, a contingency fee attorney is already protected by law in appropriate circumstances. So one of the big changes here is that I've just really abandoned the idea of trying to fit an analysis as to the ethical propriety of a conversion clause falling on whether or not a client has terminated the attorney for cause or without cause. That's one of the big changes. There's been a whole bunch of reorganization and typo cleanup, and I've already noticed many more typos and such. The other thing I did was I tried to, I often have trouble in long opinions where the hypotheticals are separated from the analysis of the hypotheticals by several pages of materials. So I tried to consolidate it and have our hypos analyzed right after each hypo. And I've tried to come up with hypotheticals that are useful in showing a useful approach to analyzing whether a conversion clause is ethically permissible or prohibited, and that comport with the sense of this committee. So it'll be very interesting to see if people agree with the results of these hypothetical scenarios at this point. I think that covers the general changes I've implemented. So I'm happy to open it up to discussion or questions, comment, anything.
Brandon?
Yes.
First of all, I apologize for not getting back to you with my comments before we had to submit the draft, but
Joel, I need to reject your apology because I think I sent it to you the night before it was due. So
yeah,
there's no apology required.
Okay, I have two comments that that make me disagree with one part of the approach to this thing. And for instance, in scenario 3, where the discharged attorney is entitled to the hourly rate of all the hours expended upon the happening of the contingency. The upon the happening of the contingency solves one problem, because you remove the deterrent to fire, if you will, because now you can't, the client can't be sued by the first attorney until the happening of the contingency. But I still disagree with it being an okay provision, because it is a deterrent in a certain sense to both successor counsel and to the right of the client to fire first counsel. In other words, if there is no clause like this, that you're guaranteed, the first attorney is guaranteed all their hours at their hourly rate, you remove the leavening effect of awarding the two counsel involved the pro rata value of the reasonable value of the services which resulted in the happening of the contingency. And so if the first counsel just racks up a ton of hours, whether or not they had some value to the goal, the result of the contingency, someone's going to pay for that. And if it's successor counsel is not going to want to take the case because their ratio value is going to be reduced by a fixed value, which I don't think is the way it would come out. So the other way it would come out would be is that you would still do the reasonable value analysis between the two attorneys, and the client would get stuck with the overage, whether or not those hours actually were contributed to the success of the happening of the contingency. So that's, I don't have a solution other than to just say, no, that we should just leave all successor counsel the reasonable value of their services capped by the contingency amount. So that would be my solution. The second conceptual issue I have, and I'll just lay it out and then shut up, is that we don't discuss the issue of anything other than the case law or statutory scheme where the two attorneys share the contingent fee in reasonable, in ratio of their reasonable value in bringing about the contingency, any kind of hedge that increases the first attorney's compensation, you then have to look at, well, does that increase of compensation hedge the contingency enough to render the contingent fee, the percentage fee, unconscionable, in the sense that that attorney is not taking the same risk any longer. That attorney has now hedged their risk and thus doesn't have to wait till the outcome of what was my hourly value as opposed to what's my reasonable value. So those are the two comments I have. Otherwise, I think it's a great exposition of the whole issue, and I'm really, I think it's a great job.
Thank you, Joel. You know, it's really interesting because you're zeroing in on something that I wrestled with, and I understand. You may just absolutely be right. What I was trying to do, I was thinking about a situation. Let's say attorney number one never had a contingency fee agreement and just has an hourly fee, and client runs out of money. That attorney's gone, and client goes and gets a contingency fee attorney to complete the representation. You would be stuck with a situation where attorney number one has an hourly fee agreement. I believe in the law, they're still going to be limited to reasonable fees. So if they've racked up some crazy hours, they're not going to be compensated for those hours. And so I'm wondering if it's any different if attorney number one has a contingent fee agreement, but a conversion clause that triggers hourly fees, still subject to a reasonable fee analysis. If that's any different than the quantum merit ratio of hours and contribution towards service, towards the result. I'm not sure, and you may be right. Maybe it's inappropriate for attorney number one to be able to capture or claim hourly fees in that scenario. I've really wrestled with that, and I think scenario number three is the toughest one, or at least to me the closest call. But those are very, very good points you bring up, and maybe I need to go back to the drawing board, and maybe it's not a useful hypothetical.
Yeah, Brandon, this is Ken. I mean, I had the same concerns on scenario three that Joel mentioned. Plus, I mean, one concern that I had, you know, in addition to the sharing of fees, is the way this is set up now, where the attorney, there's no quantum merit. It's strictly an hourly base fee with no particular limit upon that. I mean, the problem I would see here is, one, it takes out the risk of when you have the contingency by hedging it like that. But two, if it's going on a strictly hourly basis as opposed to quantum merit, I mean, I can foresee any number of circumstances where on an hourly basis, the fee might eat up the entire recovery, and it's not tied to the recovery in any fashion. So that's why, I mean, that was a big concern I had, and, you know, and the ultimate conclusion, likely ethically permissible. You know, I would have a hard time seeing this as being an ethically permissible clause.
So I actually, as a, my heart agrees with both of you, but I'm trying, the thing I've been challenged by is, and I've seen it come up in my practice, where attorney number one is just an hourly attorney, and then attorney number two is a contingency fee attorney. And at the end of the day, there's a recovery and a dispute over fees. And I don't have clarity as to whether number one's fee becomes unconscionable, because when coupled with the second attorney's fee, the client is paying too high of a contingent fee, if number one was never a contingent attorney. And so then, stepping back from that, if you have a hybrid fee agreement, which arguably this conversion clause would create, it's a contingent fee agreement and an hourly fee agreement if triggered. I'm trying to figure out how that's different. And maybe the difference is in the fact that it's presented as a contingent fee agreement, but it's really not a contingent fee agreement if the conversion clause is ever triggered.
Well, Brandon, if the first contract is something along the lines of, for $10,000, I'll look and see if you have a case. And when I get to the end of that, then we'll decide what to do. I charge you the $10,000. I tell you, I don't like your case. And now you go on and the client goes on and hires a contingent fee lawyer to take it anyway, in which the first attorney has no right to that fee.
Right.
That's one thing. I have no problem with that. It's that it's carrying over the right to now share in the second fee, if you will, that creates both of the problems that both Ken and I are concerned about, which is, are you hedging, are you getting more than you're entitled to, number one, and does it affect the reasonable value of the contingency that you're sharing in? So
well, I think
both of those reasons I end up on unconscionable.
I think you both make great points. It might be really useful to see how the committee feels generally, to see if I should, if we should reach a different conclusion as to scenario number 3 or get rid of the scenario. Does anyone else have a thought?
I had one other point on that one too, because you do comment in there that, nothing unethical so long as it complies with BMP 6148. And I'm not sure under this scenario how you would do that. Unless you're submitting hourly bills throughout, or time records throughout the contingent portion, you wouldn't be complying with 6148B. And, given the fact that it's written as a contingent fee agreement and the hedge is the hourly, I'm not sure that it would even comply with 6148A in terms of the basis of compensation. So, I think it would be difficult to write it in a way that it would comply with 6148 in this fashion.
That's a good point. I have seen attorneys that do send time record. I've seen in my practice conversion clauses like this, and where attorneys are very careful to try to track 6148 as well as 6147. And they do send time records all along, which to me is just further interference with the client's right to discharge an attorney, because it's like, you don't need to pay me except out of a recovery unless you fire me, and it's growing by the month. This is how much you get penalized for exercising your right to fire me. So maybe we need to come to the opposite conclusion on scenario number 3.
Well, one more thing to throw on the fire before we get to the rest of the committee is that, thinking about it, there's a tension in billing philosophy. Normally, you can justify a lot of hours for a contingent lawyer when they now come to present their reasonable value calculation, because the client doesn't care. The client says, put in every hour you can. I want to win this case. Take every deposition. Do everything else, whatever. And on the other side, though, if you're billing by the hour, the client may be saying, no, let's be more judicious in how we spend our attorney resources. And that gets resolved often at the maybe to the expense of the second lawyer or the client. So
yeah, good point. And so my thinking initially was that would be addressed in the reasonableness of the hourly fee being demanded. So if you went overboard, as a contingency attorney is free to do, it wouldn't be a reasonable hourly fee for the value imparted.
The point
I'm really
is,
on the fence on this scenario.
If it's going to be a contingent fee, nobody cares about reasonable value of that service, because it's going to be measured by the contingent fee or your share of the contingent fee.
Right.
If it's now going to be measured by hours, you're going to be justifying all kinds of things you might not have done on a straight hourly basis.
Right.
And there's a tension there that I don't know that I've set down to resolve at the moment, but it's there.
I agree. I agree.
Can I pipe in just as the newbie, just looking at the scenario for the first time? How is it, at least as it's drafted here, the scenario, the idea that you have a provision in the fee agreement that says, hey, if you discharge me, I'm going to recover the hourly rate legitimately and reasonably performed on your behalf up until the time of conversion. Not to be so naive here, but how's that really different from quantum merit, which you are as a lawyer entitled to in the event you're discharged?
So
I guess I can see a little nuance there, being the point being that you're going to pay me at the lawyer's hourly rate. Now that may not be what the lodestar rate is, and so that maybe that's higher than the market rate. So I can see the tension right there, and that maybe is the distinction.
Right. I think, and honestly, I think you've nailed it exactly. When I've dealt with this, attorneys have justified it by saying, you know, sometimes their hourly rate is higher than the general hourly rate, and they want to be entitled to that hourly rate, and they want the client to agree, you know, if the reasonable hours I put in this case are going to be paid at, you know, $10,000 an hour or whatever is my super high hourly rate. So in some sense, there's not that much of a distinction between a reasonable fee analysis and quantum merit, but I do think the rate is the difference.
Well, I also think the issue would be the value of the case. I mean, I think if the value of the case is $10,000, and you might, as someone pointed out, I mean, your fees might far exceed the actual value of the recovery, in which case it would make it unconscionable. So I think, you know, you have a situation. I mean, I flagged this too. I had similar concerns about the conclusion because, to the extent that the hourly rate sort of doesn't exceed the pro rata version, your pro rata quantum merit value of the attorney's fees, then the hourly is going to be fine. I mean, I think that when you have these hybrid agreements, it seems like the hourly should protect the client in the sense that, that maybe the attorney shouldn't get more. If it's a large settlement, if we're talking about lots of money, then that attorney that's not working after a period of time shouldn't get the benefit necessarily of that value of the contingency, or it could be basically like that's converted to hourly work, right? And then the attorney that took it to trial or took more risk or went forward in that way is going to get the rest of the contingency. But having this sort of has like the reverse consequence the way I see it here, which is like, you could potentially see a scenario in which, the value of the case is less than the actual hourly rate that the attorney put into it for whatever reason, right? And so I think that's why this scenario doesn't work for me in terms of saying that it's ethically permissible. And, I was trying to think about ways in which to sort of capture factually like a different scenario in which you could have hourly convert, but it couldn't be more than sort of the pro rata share that you're entitled to get if that was the contractual agreement. But then you're always just going to take the pro rata share. So then it doesn't really matter that it's like hourly, right? So it kind of, to me, doesn't really work here in that way. If you wanted to characterize it as more of like a client-friendly provision where lots of people enter into hybrid agreements that are hourly, but maybe if they take on more risk, it converts to contingency, but that the client gets sort of the benefit of whatever that lower rate is, and the attorney on the flip side of it gets a value for hourly work, then that, I think that sort of makes sense as something that's permissible. But I don't, I see problems with this for the reasons that we've identified,
I'm really glad to hear this, actually. This is, I think it was a couple months ago, we wanted one scenario that walked right up to the line but stayed permissible. And it just seems clear that I've walked over that line from what I'm hearing today. And and that nobody's comfortable with saying scenario number 3 is ethically permissible. Unless
on that whole quantum merit issue too. I mean, quantum merit is generally not going to exceed what the contract rate would have been.
Right.
So, in a typical quantum merit situation, that arises from a contingent fee, there's going to be that automatic cap that you wouldn't get more than your contingent fee would have been. So you're not going to exceed the agreement. But here, that built-in safeguard essentially is just taken out because it would allow you, more rights than you would have under a quantum Merowith situation. And now you can, arguably exceed what your contract rate would be.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's intended as such, honestly. I mean, I think these agreements are intended as such. And not,
We can keep this one and just say, this is not ethically permissible and is a horrible
for these
idea.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that too. Yes, I was just going to say that in my experience, the conversion clauses are most insidious when they're never even triggered, right? When they chill the client stays with some absolutely horrendous attorney because they're afraid of being clobbered by the conversion clause, not knowing whether it's enforceable or not. So, well, I'd be very happy to redraft the analysis on scenario 3, unless people think there's a better scenario we should have instead of scenario
3. Hey, Brandon.
Yes.
Let me offer an additional thought here. I agree with what everyone has said and the concerns that they're raising about scenario 3. My personal view, I liked having 4 scenarios, 2 of which go, reach one conclusion and 2 of which reach the other conclusion. And I'm thinking out loud here, is there a way to build in facts to scenario 3, guardrails, whatever you want to call it, that would actually, and then a change in the analysis that would allow for a fact pattern where the contingent fee agreement changes to, owing the hourly rate that's legitimately and reasonably performed in this context. And that's the question. I don't know that it can. I don't know that we can build that scenario. And if we can't build that scenario because we don't know, as Joel mentioned, what's the ratio, what's the relationship between the first contingent lawyer and the successor contingent lawyer, such that we could determine whether or not the first lawyer's hourly sum is going to be unconscionable in light of the scope of the case. I'm concerned we couldn't build that scenario where we could reach a conclusion to have this more balanced approach to say that, yes, there is a scenario where you could convert your contingent fee agreement to an hourly rate and have it be ethically permissible. And if that's our conclusion, it just cannot be done, then I agree with everyone who's spoken that we should revise this and reach the alternative conclusion. But I think it's worth at least considering, and then either discounting or then evaluating further whether these facts can be altered or augmented in some way to still reach an ethically permissible opinion. But I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not seeing how we could add those facts and still reach this conclusion that it's ethically permissible, given what we've just discussed. And I'm wondering if other people are seeing something differently.
I don't see how off the top of my head, but
yeah, I tried to add the protections that would make it more palatable by having the hourly fee not payable until and unless there is a recovery, and having a reasonable fee analysis. I'm not sure what else we can do past that. I'm very curious to see if there are other protections we can build into the facts that would make it acceptable.
Boom, boom.
Maybe Ken's granddaughter has some ideas. It sounds like she does.
She's got lots of ideas. Well, I thought I'd put it back on mute. Oops.
What if you added in there, and this is along the lines of what Ken was saying, but it's more along the lines of quantum Merowith, where you say, the attorney's hourly rate for all work, legitimately and reasonably performed prior to discharge, but not to exceed 40% contingent. I mean,
Oh, that's interesting. But then the problem is attorney number 2 is going to have a contingency fee.
right, right.
And we're in that weird, I mean, I know we've probably all seen that weird world where attorney number 1's on a contingency, whether it's a third or 40%. And then attorney number 2 comes in and says, I get a third. And you agree that I get a third, regardless of what prior attorney may or may not be entitled to, which is a totally different issue, but kind of analogous here.
That's what I'm struggling with, Bill and Brandon.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not
Well,
sure
it's
what we
really
could, yeah.
Well, that raises a question. Do we want to also in this piece talk about the ethical obligations of attorney number 2 as to not doing what you just said attorney number 2s often do? I don't know that we do, but it's just a thought.
That is very interesting, Joel, and it really does. I mean, this scenario as presently written begs the question of this relationship between the first and the second lawyer. And
we don't know whether we're at the starting line of the case or the finish line of the case when the attorney's terminated. It's unclear.
Yeah, I think if you were going to build out a factual scenario that you wanted to have like the favorable outcome with this, you'd have to have a lot more facts with it, right, Brandon? Like you'd have to create a situation where this is exactly, or the fee agreement's going to have to be, because I think any way in which you cap the amount that they could get for hourly, which would have to be on a, pro rata basis based on a quantum merit approach, amount of work done based on reason. It's why would then the person care about the hourly rate? Because they're going to get that anyway. If that was the cap, they're going to be like, I'll get the cap instead of taking less hourly. So the times, like I said, I've seen it is when it's a more sophisticated client who there's this recognition that, you may not, do all these things or take it all the way or something more along the lines that you'd suggest in later scenarios where the client is going to benefit from the hourly rate in certain circumstances, and that makes more sense. And that's something that they negotiate or is presented in a way that makes the contingency upside more fair, but isn't going to interfere with other counsel or is not going to remotely exceed what the value of the case is.
Right. So, okay,
Brandon,
so what is the sense of the committee? Do we want to try to make a scenario 3 that is workable, or do we want to talk about how even with the protections stated in scenario 3, that's not going to cut it? Which I think is maybe a more useful message to practitioners, so they're not trying to do somersaults to do this sort of thing. But that's just my bias.
Yeah, I felt like the discussion that we just had just now, just hearing people talking about, especially what you were talking about with the idea of the monthly or more often printouts going to the client saying, this is what my hourly rate would be if you weren't on a contingency fee, being a way of strong arming someone into not firing their lawyer. I thought that was a very interesting conversation, and I would like to see more of that in the analysis. So I think I'm leaning more towards just changing the analysis in terms of the outcome of scenario 3, as opposed to changing scenario 3 to have it come out to be ethical.
I agree with that. I think it'd be very useful to have that in the opinion.
And Brandon,
yeah,
let me heap something else onto your workload. One of the things that I've been thinking about, especially after this discussion, is we might want to take a look at that odd group of cases which talk about who can be a plaintiff in the attorney-to-attorney dispute. There's one case that says it can only be the client. It's the other case that says it can only be the first attorney. I can't remember the names of those cases or which one says what, but there's really an odd judicial kind of approach to this whole thing. And we ought to track through, assuming those cases denote the forum and who's got the burden of proof and that, this, that, and the other, what violence anything we do does to a client in any of these scenarios, if it results in subsequent litigation along the lines of either of those cases.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a line of cases that requires an attorney to actually sue the client, right?
I think Joel's talking about the Olson
Correct.
Harbison
Yeah, that's the
case.
Olson case.
Yeah,
And that was, where if they've done the, the fee splitting disclosure properly, the client's limited to suing the attorney's limited to suing the client, not the subsequent.
oh, that's
For
a,
quantum merit, but
that's a fee splitting one. I mean,
yeah, that's a fee splitting one where
not a
where the
contingency.
client fires one of the lawyers
Yeah.
and goes forward with the second lawyer.
Okay.
And so the first lawyer can sue as long as there's compliance with 1.5.1 and the consent. The lawyer can only sue the client for quantum merit,
Yeah.
but not
okay.
not the fee sharing, the other fee sharing a lawyer that continued with the case.
Yeah, well.
One concern I would add is, to the extent we go down that road into fee sharing and the consequences of that, this is not going to be an 8-page opinion.
That's true.
Well, now that you've talked it through for me, I'm not sure we need to go into those cases because they were fee splitting as opposed to subsequent attorney cases. So,
Okay.
So, Brandon,
Yeah.
I would just offer one other thought here on scenario 3. I think whichever way we end up going with this, my instinct is we need more facts. And
I think you're right.
And it relates to, I think, what Dina said about the sophistication of the client. And so I'm not suggesting my analysis is right here, but just suppose this is a very sophisticated company with a lot of money, and for some reason it's the plaintiff and it wants to have its lawyer on contingency, and it has a very detailed and thoughtful engagement agreement that sets forth the risks in precise detail about having this type of conversion clause, where the company recognizes fully in the engagement agreement that if that conversion clause is triggered, it might have to pay on an hourly basis for its lawyer, and that might result in the fact that it ultimately pays its lawyers, both the first lawyer and the successor counsel, more than it recovers. Well, you know what? That happens all the time in litigation, on the plaintiff side and on the defense side. The clients end up paying their lawyers more than they ultimately recover or defend against. And so that's not an unethical scenario in the abstract. And so I think we need to, I think the facts really play here. What if it's an indigent plaintiff, for instance, who has no choice but to go with a contingency agreement because otherwise they couldn't afford counsel, and then they get stuck with an hourly bill? I think it's a very different factual scenario than the hypo I just suggested off the top of my head, where sophisticated clients, the risks are well known, and all of that. So I think that this would benefit from a little bit more factual color about who the plaintiff is and what the circumstances of the conversion clause are.
I like it. I agree.
Brandon, I have a comment about a couple other things
Yes.
if we're ready to move, whenever we're ready to move on from 3.
Yeah, and any other comments on scenario 3? Otherwise, I think Dina.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what you were saying, Justin. It seems to me if you're gonna do that, and I agree with you, then maybe the analysis ought to include approaches for contingencies I don't even want to use the word contingencies, for scenarios with different kinds of clients and different circumstances. I mean, there has to be some way to include in this and in the analysis how this needs to be approached different, maybe should be approached and evaluated given the nature of the client.
Sort of like a
No,
3A and a 3B.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Toby. Anyone else on scenario 3? Otherwise, I know Dina has some more thoughts. Okay.
First of all, Brandon, I think this is shaping up to be a great opinion. I think it's going to be really helpful to a lot of people. I had a thought when I was reading through the section on right to discharge counsel and your discussion about, the first part in discussion about conversion clauses, and part of what we sort of don't like about conversion clauses and in some circumstances. And what occurred to me is I wondered if there was a place to mention in that, like in a footnote or something. I don't want to, go off too much on this and add, but like it occurred to me this concept of there's so many plaintiff firms that like in their advertising and marketing, they're like, oh, no cost to you, and no out-of-pocket costs, or only if you recover. And they sort of, get a lot of people that are unsophisticated in the door based on like, this isn't going to cost me anything. And I think if your marketing message is that, and then you put a conversion clause in your fee agreement with a client, I have a problem with that, right? Regardless of whether the fee agreement itself says, in some way that we've decided is permissible in another context, because they've sort of been misled to think a certain thing. So I wondered if there was a place to sort of in a footnote just to talk about, to make a note about advertising, marketing, misleading, that it shouldn't, your messaging on your firm's website or marketing materials about how you're going to charge clients for your services. And that if they're contingency fee services, that should be consistent with what is in your fee agreement. Otherwise, it's like a bait and switch thing, right? I mean, that's what, and I think that's one of the things we don't like about some of these scenarios, is because you have people that really aren't sophisticated that may go, oh, okay, it's a contingency fee, and they're not maybe reading the quote unquote fine print or something and realizing that it's going to convert, or that it's sort of a disadvantage to them, or they can't hire their counsel. And so that was just a thought I had in, reading through that. And I wouldn't think it needed to be a lot. It could be, a couple sentences in a footnote or something, but just to sort of flag that so that people kind of, are thinking about the idea of their marketing being consistent with the way they present themselves to clients, which is really important and I think overlooked in some ways.
It's a great idea.
Then in scenario 2, maybe in scenario 1 a little bit too, I thought maybe just adding a sentence about those analysis that you have, I think also relate to, they also impact the ability to find new counsel. And I don't know, maybe I think you probably mean that in your analysis when you sort of just, I'm trying to think of what you say specifically, the language about they burden the right to discharge the attorney. I mean, I think you probably mean to include in that the idea that it also impacts not just their ability, but to actually attract a new lawyer that's willing to take on their matter. And of course, I think all those scenarios do that, right? It's like the new attorney is going to say like, well, what's your arrangement with your old attorney? And you're going to give him how much? And what am I burdened by? And so that's just expressly maybe saying that in a couple words would be helpful, I think. And then on number 4, maybe something to recognize or to point out with the scenario about, contingency on rejecting settlement, that there may be, that this relates to the objective of the representation for the client, right? That there may be some non-monetary things that are important to the client, which would maybe justify the client not accepting a settlement if they didn't get some particular, specific performance aspect or some other thing that was important to them, that was key to the representation. If you're just talking about money, that this may also not be fair to them in that way. So again, maybe like a sentence on that or something, just that it's not, it may not take into account all the objectives of the representation, which could include non-monetary items of value to the client. Right. And then on 5, I'd be more comfortable with all these to say but on 5, I'd be more comfortable saying it's likely ethically permissible. I want to think about some of our conclusions about, we seem very for example, 3 says it's likely to be ethically permissible. Of course, we just discussed how we maybe don't agree with that conclusion, but in the conclusions in general, I wondered if we wanted to say more, you know,
That's a great idea.
We don't like,
no.
Yeah, we don't
That's a
like to hedge
great
our
idea.
bets, but I think these are all very fact specific, and you know, based on this analysis, it's like likely to be considered, you know, be ethically permissible or prohibited or whatever. But I don't know in any of these that we could be. There's so many other facts that we're not going to include in our fact scenarios that we would want to sort of hedge our bets a little bit on some of the conclusions, you know, and steer people in the right direction as opposed to saying absolutely or not, you know.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I agree.
And that's it. But I think overall it's great, and I think it's going to be very valuable to the sort of the plaintiff's bar and thinking about some of these things with their agreements.
This is all so helpful. These are great insights.
And Brandon, I also had a couple of comments, and along the lines of actually what Dina just said. I had a question about on lines, I guess 83 to 84. We're opining that more than quantum merit is likely to be ethically prohibited. And I don't know that that's necessarily true in all circumstances. If more than quantum merit is still considered, it's not unconscionable within the meaning of the rule. And we kind of reached this, I think that's kind of a broad conclusion, and we don't have much analysis around that. So I thought it'd be useful if we're going to make that type of statement to have some support for it. And I don't know that that's true, you know, if it's not unconscionable. And I think that's why attorneys enter into these contract agreements, because otherwise you're entitled to quantum merit. So I don't think just because it's more than quantum merit would make it prohibited.
Maybe the point there is that I should have made is that if it's going to lead to something more than quantum merit, it should be subject to, you know, like heightened scrutiny or something like that, that we really want to take a look at it, not that it's improper per se.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to address it. That makes sense. And I just had one other comment, and this is on, I guess, starting at line 128, but I'll wait till Mimi. And this was just, you had made a comment about settlement related conversion clause permitted in very limited circumstances. And I think it might be useful if we're able to provide an example. And this is line 128, it starts at. And I don't know, in the body or maybe in a footnote, but just, I think it might be useful to provide an example.
Can anyone think of an example? I'm not sure what I was thinking there of a settlement related conversion. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I've got an example. There's this PREC opinion that I reference in here where it was like a public interest law firm that said, we will represent you for free so long as you stay focused on these, because you've come to us, the objectives of your representation are this public interest objectives, and we will represent you for free, but you agree to pay our hourly rates if you choose to do a confidential settlement for money instead, you know, because we're not just free lawyers, we are public interest lawyers. And PREC came to the conclusion that, well, that's okay. That's really specific. The client and the attorney are united on goals, and the fee is tied to the goals and not invading clients' rights. So yeah, Sarah, I think you made a great point, and that sort of thing might be an appropriate example of a settlement related conversion clause that is appropriate.
Okay, that sounds good. And what is PREC? What's that stand for?
Sorry, that's the LA committee acronym for the LA Ethics Committee, LA County Bar.
Okay, understood. Because I also think there might be an example I know there's a Colorado ethics opinion that I think might also have another example if you want to take a look.
Yeah.
Can't recall what it is right now, but I just thought an example would be useful. So that was, I thought it looked great. And so thank you.
Thank you.
I had a comment on scenario 2, and I think it was somewhere else in the opinion as well, but if you go to like line 230, might have changed.
It might have shifted a little with my notes and stuff.
Now it's like 233, 234, where it talks about if the attorney relationship ends for any reason, and then the next line talks about whether the lawyer withdraws or is terminated. What I thought was missing in there is that there's that line of cases where if the attorney in the contingent fee circumstance withdraws without cause, they forfeit their right to a fee.
The Russ Miliband case.
Yeah, it's that, or Estate of Falco, something like, I forget what the case name is, but there's that body of authority that, where a contingent fee lawyer withdraws without cause, essentially abandoning the case because they don't think it's worthwhile or whatever. They are not entitled to a fee, contingent, quantum merit, or otherwise. And that scenario doesn't seem to account for that. I don't know whether we can address that in a footnote or how we would address that, but.
I mentioned those cases earlier on, but you're right. That's a good place to mention it in practice in the scenario 2.
Oh, it was earlier in there? I might have missed that. The other comment I had was on scenario 5. Initially, I want to give you kudos. That's a great scenario. The one thing, and this is maybe just, the part about the contingency, the defense contingency, and here it says, how it's tied to the amount sought by the client. I mean, by the adversary. And that's an issue I've always seen with that type of a fee agreement. And particularly in this scenario where the client wants to give that, affirmative, the defense aspect, or they give up their affirmative claim, to make the case a walk away. If that was, I think that was what the scenario was here. But then still subject to this defense fee, and it says the amount sought. You see cases all the time where somebody seeks, they're claiming, just ridiculous potential damages that they have no way of obtaining. So how do you, 35% of what they were claiming? To me, this was a little uncertain what the defensive contingent fee could be in this circumstance, especially since there's no fund here to recover from. So this is money that would be coming out of the client's pocket. And if the other side said, let's say it was a contract case, or where you can plead the damages, and they say, $10 million, but realistically it was $10,000.
Right. So I'll try to define that in some way so that it's not subject to the whims of the opponent inflating whatever they wish. And you're right, that is a challenge with defense contingencies. Yeah, that's a good point.
I thought that was a great scenario. I like that.
Great. All right.
Do others have comments?
There was, and perhaps we touched on it already, there was a note to discuss a new case on settlement authority. Is
yeah,
that the case?
I probably should have taken that note out. There's this pretty egregious case came out a few weeks ago, Amaji versus Brown, where these attorneys settled a case pursuant to some claim of authority to do so after their client said you cannot do it. It's not really subtle, and I'm not sure whether it merits inclusion because it's so outrageous. It's not really. Yeah.
The reason I ask, and because when I saw that note, that's the case that I thought it was about, because like you say, it is, and frankly, it doesn't seem to state anything new. So the decision to publish it seems to be a call out.
They're really
actually
mad at
think-
those attorneys. Yeah.
I think a footnote on that wouldn't go amiss for the very reason that I think that the courts decided to publish it. I also thought it was interesting when I read it because it deals with issues of advanced consent, which this committee has discussed in the recent past. And it also deals with, if I pull it up, give me 1 second. It also deals with contract provisions, obviously, that are not acceptable. So it has this kind of scattershot over this committee's opinions. So I thought that even if we didn't necessarily reference it here, I think it's definitely worth reading. And what I'll do is I'll see if I can pull up the citation on it and share that with everybody because it definitely merits a read.
Great. Yeah, I think I can put that in a footnote because lest somebody read this opinion and still be tempted to exercise settlement control over their client, maybe that case would dissuade.
Yeah, I think a footnote would be worth throwing in there at some point.
Good idea. Good idea.
I have a few comments then. So I had the same reaction to Sarah with respect to lines 83 and 84, and I would just add that we make the same point on page 5. And so specifically what was lines 156 to 160. And so I don't think we need to make the same point twice. And defer to you, Brandon, as to where you think, however this point gets wordsmithed, where you think it makes most sense. My inclination was to keep the point in page 5 rather than on page 3, just because there's more excuse me, background in the case built out by the time you then get to the point that you're making in 83 and 84. So just something to think about. There are a couple of references, rather than saying likely, we say highly likely, such as at line 87 and 97 and some other places. My personal preference would for us to just throughout the opinion consistently say where we reference likely or unlikely, just to say that, this is likely, this is unlikely, or whatever conclusion we reach, and just pluck out the word highly where it appears in a few places, just so we have those kind of parallel statements, unless we really think that there's something unique to that particular point being made where it is necessary to have that emphasis on highly. On page 4, the first, or maybe that's the first full paragraph that begins, well, ethics committees of other states have approached blah blah blah. The paragraph introduces the concept of heightened scrutiny, and immediately my mind went back to second year con law, which it was a wonderful place to be and I enjoyed it for the moment, but I'm thinking that our readers might also have that connection, and I don't know that we want to employ what some might think of as a con law standard here. And so I'm wondering if maybe just to tweak the language here to both, we want to emphasize the scrutiny piece of this. And so maybe instead of using heightened scrutiny, we could say something like closely scrutinized or carefully scrutinized or something like that.
That's a good idea.
And then sort of relatedly at what was line 152, we have, I think, our more con law phrases. So, which was also, again, took me back for a moment and I enjoyed it, where we talk about requires analysis of the conversion clause, both facially and as applied. Here's my thought on this. One, I don't know that we need to say that. facially and as applied because we have the analysis and is what it is. But if we're going to include those terms, I think maybe we want to connect them to the subsequent paragraphs in a way that is, elucidating why we're using those terms. So I defer to you on how you want to play that out, but that just was something that stood out to me, is either we want to omit it, or we want to kind of elucidate and connect those terms to then what we say subsequently.
All right, what line was that?
It was 152.
152. Yeah, 151,
Okay, sorry.
152.
Yeah, there it is, 156,
This one.
157.
Just highlight it for you so you know that might.
Again, continuing my theme of the standards, the description of our standards, let me go back to what was line 94. And I can tell you what it is now when we get closer. Let's see. Yes, so now line 97. So a couple things here. One is, I think that the conversion clause could be unreasonably unappealing to any kind of successor counsel. So I don't think we need to say contingent fee counsel there. I think we could just say successor counsel, because if an hourly lawyer is coming in and knows that getting the completed payment is going to depend on the judgment received, and that part of that judgment's got to go to the first contingent counsel, I think that's going to have an impact on whether they want to take the case. So I would just say successor counsel there, and
okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then instead of I don't know, the unreasonably unappealing phrase just caught my eye, and I'm wondering if we could say something instead like, I'll just read the whole sentence, and here's my thought. Related to the issue of unconscionability addressed in section C below is whether the conversion clause provides an alternate fee which would have the effect of, and then we could say something like, impeding retention of successor counsel, or discouraging successor counsel from, accepting the representation, or something like that, and then excise the unreasonably unappealing phrase. That I feel less strongly about, but I wanted to offer.
No, I think I'm very comfortable with your revision there. That's
All right, what are we going with? Impeding retention of successor counsel?
Yeah, and then just go to the period there. That works for me.
Impeding or discouraging?
Maybe discouraging is.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas. Discouraging. I mean, it can be wordsmithed further, but
yeah. I'll look at that. I'll look at that for sure.
I'll highlight it for you.
And then, see, I think we still have a couple minutes, so I'll just keep going here.
Can I just make a comment on that one?
Sure.
Are we really getting to whether or not it's unappealing to successor counsel, or whether or not it's like impermissibly impeding the client's choice of counsel by making it unappealing? I mean, should we be more express about that, I guess is my question. Because that's what we're protecting, right?
Yeah, the chilling effect, essentially. I think that's the key to our opinion. And so maybe we want to wordsmith this even further to emphasize that point, either instead of or in addition to this change.
I think it would be helpful to make it more express.
Eleanor, do you have any suggestions off the top of your head for how to sort of make
Sure.
this point?
You want me to send it over to you in chat?
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks. So on page 4, what was line 30 that begins, "It is the view of the committee." So my reaction to this paragraph was, when we start talking about it's a clear and unwaivable duty, that we might be steering, from pure ethics to standard of care type of discussion. And so it just made me think, well, can we back this up with some kind of citation? since we're kind of, going a little bit towards the standard of care end of the spectrum in terms of saying that this is a clear and unwaivable duty. So my thought there is maybe we can look for some kind of citation to support that statement if one exists.
That may actually get us back to the Amjadi case. That's probably an appropriate citation.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Look
Great.
at that, full circle. I have a few other nits, Brandon, that I can send you separately.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
This has been a great conversation and great first opinion for our new members, I think, to see how the dynamic plays out. If anyone has more comments or questions, we're getting close to lunchtime, but I'd love to close this out and make sure everyone's had the opportunity to share their thoughts. So is there anything else that anyone would like to share about this opinion? Okay. Well, hearing nothing, we're right on time here for lunch. So why don't we take a 1 hour lunch as scheduled and come back at 1 o'clock. And just to whet your appetite before lunch with something other than food, just a friendly reminder that we're going to be talking about new opinion topics. And so we would welcome any thoughts that folks have for issue outlines that they might like to vet and prepare an issue outline for. So when we have the discussion of new topics, we would love to hear from everyone who has ideas that they'd like to share, and would encourage anyone who has the time and interest to start working on an issue outline for potential opinions. We would love to get that going and start planting those seeds. So that's what's coming up on the agenda, among other things, this afternoon. Andrew, Mimi, anything else before we break? Sarah, Dina?
Nope.
No.
Nope. All sounds
we'll
good.
See you all
Thank you all.
Great. See you all at 1.